welcome back to another exciting season of the Reddit League. My name is Zotomo, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-caster Calamity. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, and a very big welcome to our guest this week. In week one, it is BOKSA, the now official champion of Formula G Season 2, and also the semi-finalist, runner-up from last season in Division 1. How are you doing, BOKSA?
I'm doing quite good. I'm doing fine. Nice Sunday here in Frankfurt, near Germany. And thank you for having me today. I'm really looking forward to the show.
Great to have you. After your wonderful run of form lately, we can't wait to hear your thoughts on how the league is going to shape up this season. So let's just jump right in to the Division 1 results for our first week here in Japan. And BOKSA, a pretty good start from you here, as well as Raidman, both of you getting wins.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Division 1 should be the most competitive of all Division 1s we had so far, which makes sense because it's like the fourth season. And I'm not sure how it will go, but I aim as well to be under the top 4 as last season. I think last season showed that you don't even have to be the first on the table in the regular season to win. So, but of course that's my goal, and I expect all the new franchises to be somewhere on top as well. For example, or in special Blinky, who's been like a god in the preseason. Yeah, so I think we will see in the next few weeks.
Very nice. Yeah, Calamity. Very rough for our promoted players. They played off against each other, Verdok and Chicago, and both of them getting the lowest scores of the division.
Yeah, it's good for Verdok at least. I'm sure he'd rather have faced off against Chicago than anyone else this week, because this way at least he gets 3 points, even though he only got 17,000 points in this game. But Division 1 kind of was dominated by one round in particular, one round to rule them all. And particularly it was round 3, which was on an island in Japan, which did have some information, especially in one direction, but made it quite difficult to find out where you are, and resulted in only Ice, I think. Ice, I think, was the only one out of the Division 1 players, at least. There were 2 others who in other divisions who also found the right island. And it didn't even help Ice, who then watched the other 2 rounds after that. But actually, even though that one round was based a bit more in luck than skill, it didn't actually change too much. Chicago Verdok, Simi, Mr. Blue, and Ice Orpheus would have finished the exact same if the round hadn't been there. It just changed the other 2 results. Bulgur would have gotten a tie instead of the win that Raidman managed to achieve, and Blinky would have beat BOKSA. If that round wasn't there. But the thing is, even if you say if that round wasn't there would have been a different round instead of it, and maybe that would have been equally hard and would have shuffled things around again. But for those of you who want to play around a bit at the end of the season and want to be like, well, what if that round hadn't been there? I can tell you it would have led to 2 more points for Blinky and Bulgur, 1 less point for Raidman, and 3 less points for BOKSA. So there you go.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look at the Division 1 table as it has shaped up after 1 week. Of course, not a whole lot to talk about. People who won and are on top. People who lost are in the bottom half, but only 1 game under their belt so far out of the 9 to come. So, yeah, not too bad. Quite a few aces already, though. We've got 3 people with 3 aces, BOKSA, after the first round, and quite a few people with 2 as well.
Yeah, well, I think it has been a rough seed, especially round 3. But in the end, I mean, I can understand why people are upset because they lost maybe, for example, Blinky because of that one round. But in the end, we are playing a game that's called Geoguessr. So you sometimes just have to work with your gut feeling and maybe the plants or flora and fauna. So yeah, as I said, I can understand why people complain about round 3. But I think it's part of the game, and I think we shouldn't change the whole reglement of the division or of the league only because of 1 round. because there are like 8 more games to come in Division 1 at least. Yeah, and I hope that we will continue like we did in the first match, at least from my side.
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of the game, right? Sometimes you don't get much information at all, and that's what makes it so great. Yeah, Calamity, not much we can say about this so far, but wins for all 3 returning semifinalists, at least in the first week.
Yeah, for those, and also on the other side, pretty rough start for all of the promoted players from Division 2. We spoke about Verdok getting lucky with his win because he was playing against another promoted player in Chicago. But Ice as well, a tough week for him. He probably would have wanted a good game in Japan, especially because I'm pretty sure he lived there for a couple of years and he can read quite a few kanji and stuff like that. He does still have his home country of Iceland coming up, so he can maybe look forward to that as well. But probably kind of the season where he would have wanted to be in Division 1 just based on the maps and the schedule. But it'll be a tough season for him, definitely. I think kind of Chicago, Ice, and Simi maybe, if he's not feeling particularly motivated in some of the more difficult weeks, are kind of the players who might be fighting down there at the top against relegation. And the fourth player could be a surprise. I don't really see anyone who I'd say, oh, he's definitely going to be down there. Maybe Verdok will, if he's not going to do that well on the world maps, which he usually wins. I haven't looked at his games in particular yet, so I don't know if he plays against strong players in the world maps where he'd be expected to maybe drop some points. Maybe Bulgur, I don't know yet. I know he's a very strong player as well, but dropped that first game in Japan, and maybe he's going to be down there as well. But it'll definitely be an interesting season for sure.
Indeed. I can't wait to see how the weeks shape up. Well, we've already got another exciting map coming at you in week number 2. Guatemala, a small Central American country, and a French derby with Orpheus and Blinky to get us started in here, BOKSA.
Yeah, I'm quite sure that Blinky will win against Orpheus. Not saying Orpheus is a big player, but I just think Blinky wants to collect his first 3 points. Maybe even a perfect score. I'm not quite sure, but I'm also looking forward to the match between Raidman and Mr. Blue, because if you ask me, the 4 first places are decided between Blinky, Raidman, Mr. Blue, and myself, I hope. So those matches are one of the most important for the whole season. So who wins there, he will have I think a most secure spot in the first 4 places.
Yeah, Calamity, that Raidman Mr. Blue matchup, a repeat of the semifinal from last season.
Yeah, they're at it again after Mr. Blue got the win in the regular season last season, but then Raidman knocked him out of the playoffs in the semifinal. And I'm sure Mr. Blue will want to take revenge again and get a win there, but I'm sure Raidman will want the same. And it'll definitely be an interesting game to see who will come out of the top there. Yeah, as we already said, Blinky against Orpheus. Probably Blinky the favorite there. He's also had in the Coupe de la Ligue, a French competition, he had to practice Guatemala against Chicago. So he's already got some practice in the country. And he's still currently, I think, the person who's in number 1 on the high scores with a 25k in like 9 minutes. So it'll be a very tough challenge for Orpheus. And Simi against Verdok could be a pretty interesting game as well for both of their seasons. I think the person who will lose there might have a pretty tough season coming towards him. But I guess Simi already had a bad start to his season last season, and he managed to pull that back and at least finish sort of mid-table. So maybe he can do that again this time after he's through all of the countries that he doesn't like.
Yeah, very nice to definitely see how things shape up in the little Central American country of Guatemala for week 2. Well, let's shift into Division 2 and their results in Japan. Calamity, this is where we find your name for the first time. A nice win over Tesco Tac. But again, in Division 2, no wins for any of the newcomers. Calamity.
Yeah, Max at least, for one of the promotees, got a win. Although Shumi also got a great score, he just fell a bit short of Guelo Wizard, who won for the first time in his career in a Division 2 seed. Had the highest score there, and he even had the highest score out of everyone over all the divisions. Yeah, as you said, newcomers not having a good time so far. Pluki just losing out against Baseman by like 700 points. And Pastek, I think, dropped like pretty much almost all of his points in one round. Finished quite far behind Tall there. So Tall will probably be happy about winning his French derby, the first one out of two. And yeah, apart from that, I got my sort of must-win game against Tescotac. He made it close. He wasn't too far away. Just falling short of a bonus point, unfortunately for him, came in 7th in the seed. But this kind of almost also makes it seem like a pretty tough season for Schludi. I also said I think I said in the reveal show that I can't really judge him yet because he's always been in Division 1 for the past 2 seasons and he's always kind of fought against relegation. That can always be a bit difficult to judge a person's skill there if they come into a new situation like this time in Division 2 where they should be fighting for promotion. And yeah, not a great start for him. Not a fantastic start for Patriots either. But yeah, it'll be interesting where this one goes, and still everything's still very close. And the thing is, with Japan and Guatemala, we don't really have very like usual countries to start us off with here. So even after those 2 weeks, I don't think we can really judge players' skill all too well on just those countries in particular.
Yeah, BOKSA, definitely a rough start and welcome for Schludi in Division 2 and plenty of high scores with several 24-9s here.
Yeah, I'm happy that especially Max is having a good week in Japan. I think he's been improving lately. I mean, he's my teammate in the Formula G season, and I think at the start of the Formula G, he wasn't that high on the table, but now in the end, I think he's like 3rd. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
so,
he's been he's improving lately. So I'm quite happy that he can transfer his success into the Reddit League. Of course, I'm also cheering for you, Calamity.
Yes.
So maybe we can finally match up in Division 1 someday. And it's nice that I personally like 3-pointers. I don't like draws in general, so it's a little bit more point heavy.
Yeah, very nice. Well, let's take a look again at the very simple table for week 1 in Division 2. Calamity, despite your win, that score difference keeps you down towards 5th. Real Clyde, Tall Impala, and Max taking out those top 3 spots. Rough starts again for our newcomers and promotees, all 4 of those kinds of people at the bottom of the table, with Tescotac just down there after his loss to you. Yeah, Shumi does pick up a bonus point, though, for his good score in Japan, despite not picking up a win. So he sits perfectly in the middle of the table, pretty much. And quite a few aces there, especially for Guelo Wizard, 4 Calamity.
Yeah, he just dropped 2 points, I think, in the last round. Just fell short of a perfect score on a pretty much straight road with not a lot to help you pinpoint there. So a bit unfortunate for him. But yeah, the 2 people with the highest scores also had the strongest opponents pretty much. So Guelo and me are like in 5th and 6th currently. But, you know, it's score difference, well, I always want to say it probably won't matter too much. But it might. We've seen it happen before. I think it decided who would get into the promotion playoff between Verdok and Clyde last season in Division 2. It's also decided who'd get into the relegation playoff, I think, in Division 5A, if I'm not mistaken. So it can definitely come into play.
It also decided the automatic promotion spot for you and Ice, right? Yes.
Did it? I don't remember that.
Yeah, you both were on 25 points, and he got you by about 4,000 or so score difference.
Well, that's great. I forgot about that.
No, sorry, that was the total score. Score difference. He had you on about 10,000 score difference.
Okay.
So points were very, very tight in Season 2 last season. So yeah, decided quite a bit, actually.
Yep. Well, yeah,
It's
and
good that you put it behind yourself at least, and getting into a new season, you're
yeah,
going to remember it.
I
So
did I did until now. Now I'll have to do that whole process
sorry.
over again. But yeah, it's still got a long way to go, and nothing much decided yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Box, any takes on the Division 2 table so far?
Well, regarding to the first four places, I see Calamity, Max, maybe Tall and Paula, and yeah, I'm not quite sure about Pastek and Bluki. They lost their first match, but I think they're pretty good players. I'm not sure if Japan is their like best map, so I'm curious to see how they will move up the table. I think it's going to be a pretty rough season for Schludi, maybe also Shumio Bolozo. I'm not quite sure. I think he did a good job in last season, but Division 2 is like the most competitive Division 2 we had as well, and I think there are some players who do pretty good in Division 1. For example, Real Clyde, maybe. I think he's been a good player also last season, as you already mentioned. I also see Calamity being a good Division 1 player. And I hope that the Best Man will do a good job.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's take a look at their matchups for Guatemala next week. Patriots up against Schludi. Both of those players losing their first match can be very important for them. Here, Calamity.
Yeah, it's already kind of like a fight for their lives here. Of course, a loss is not the end for them in any way, but especially yeah, in a division as evenly matched as this one, you kind of can always come back if you just put in the work and have a bit of luck on your side. But two losses in a row can mean a massive hit to your self confidence, and believe it or not, that's really important for performing at your best in Geoguessr. Yeah, the top two of week two also face each other here in week one with me against Squalo. And I'd like to get a third win in a row against Squalo. I've pretty much been in the same division as him since season two. But after his strong performance in Japan, I'm a bit less confident about it. I think I've still got I still have to go in as the favorite, but yeah, it'll be an interesting one. And I think that will also show us a bit more about where Guelo's season is heading, because he was struggling quite bad last season, only just about making it to the relegation playoff, where he then knocked Radox down to Division 3. So it's going to be an interesting one, whether Japan was just a one-off, where he just maybe had the time to practice, maybe got a good seed for him, or if it's just generally now the case where he'll perform at that level and he's going to be a serious contender for promotion. And I think we'll have a better impression of that after this week. And yeah, we also got here a Max against Tall, which I think is going to be a really cool matchup to decide a bit more about who'll be fighting for promotion there. And for Pluki and Pastek, it'll be already kind of a decider as well, facing off against Jumi and M the Basement. If they want to fight for promotion too, they're gonna have to start picking up points. And well, what's a better place to start than right now?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Max FI and Tom Paula, a very big match, as you said, Box, of people probably going to fighting for that promotion spot in Division 2 this season.
Yeah. I'm also looking forward to the matchup between Max and Tall. I think it's like Raidman against Mr. Blue in Division 1, maybe, some sort of. I'm also interested in seeing how Bluki and Pastek, pronunciation is quite hard, Hashi, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know.
Pastek Hashi.
Hashi, okay. All right. I'm interested in seeing how they will play in the Guatemala match, because I mean they lost their first match, and they did a good job in the preseason. So we can maybe see their strength now. Not quite sure if they have been able to practice Guatemala a lot, or if they still focus on the French tournament we're also playing in. But I think the down 3 matches of the Frenchies are interesting, and yeah, I'm also looking forward to the Clyde match and Calamity match. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look at Division Three's results in Japan for them. Two fellow Germans in this one, BOKSA, Seppo, and Closed, both unfortunately not able to get a win against very strong performances from Americans there in LCN and Berry Fishy Bear.
Yeah, I mean, as a German, I'm cheering for my German mates, Closed and Seppo. I really want him to be at least in Division 2 or maybe some time in Division 1 because I think there are now so many American players and French players, especially in Division 1. We can we can have some more Germans, or in Switzerland or Austria would be fine as well. Yeah, we should take them into Division 1. But I mean, close score 23,000 wasn't that bad at all, as you already mentioned. Barry Fishbeer is a pretty good player. 24k, pretty high score. So I think Closed would have won against many other players. Expect for maybe Freckles. Yeah, I think Hugo Alvara is having a rough time lately. I've also seen him playing in one, 2, or 3 other tournaments where he didn't do that well. For example, on the French Discord server, I think. But yeah, I can definitely see people like Barry Fishy Bear and Freckles being contenders for Division 2.
Indeed, yeah, a very good win here for Benica Calamity towards the bottom of the table. People fighting to probably stay up this season.
Yeah, Benica had a pretty decent average sort of season last season where he finished sort of mid-table. Not too bad, not too good, not really standing out much, but starting off with a solid 3 points here. I think that's probably going to be his goal again, sort of be safe from relegation and maybe have a look into what he might find at the top there. Maybe a bit of a challenge towards sort of the promotion playoff spots at least. He's, of course, got difficult competition again. Great performance from LCN there, especially, who kind of went a bit under the radar in Division 4 last season. But starting off with a bang here, almost 24.9k and the highest score in the division for himself there. Not that he needed to get that many points against Seppo, who is having a bit of a rough time, also struggled a lot in Division 2 last season, ended up dropping out and being relegated to Division 3. Yeah, it'll be tough for him again, even though he's now dropped from Division 2 to Division 3. The opponents aren't getting any easier. Yeah, Freckles is always a bit of a hit or miss, depending on the map we get. If this season's countries are in favor of him, he definitely might be a challenger for some of the promotion places. We got 3 world maps again, where we know he's gonna be good. I think he probably is also going to be decent in Iceland. He's probably going to be decent in Romania as well. It's just the kind of countries like Guatemala and Botswana where it might be tough for him depending on which kind of opponents he's got. Also nice seeing Radox finally in a division where he can sometimes win some games. Obviously starting off with a big advantage there in Japan for himself. But yeah, if he can keep that going, that form, I think it's also, as I kind of hinted at earlier, it's always a bit of a self-confidence game, and now that he's got going with a win straight off the bat, maybe he can sort of take that confidence with him and perform well for the rest of the season. Apart from that, yeah, Ferret and Hugo not looking too good from the start. I know Ferret played relatively late and had to have an extension, I think, as well. So I don't think he got all that much practice in, and he also said something, I think, that was him that I talked to, where he said, let me just quickly look that up again. Where was it? Yeah, Guatemala should be an easier country. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that sentence before, but if he thinks, and let's see if he can show that in this next week.
Yeah, Guatemala's an easier country. I can't wait to see what he can do there. Let's quickly take a look at the Division 3 table. Of course, as always, not a whole lot going on yet. Closed did pick up a bonus point, which puts him in 7th despite his loss. And yeah, Freckles, LCN, and Benica sit in the top with Radox close on their heels. I think Benica and Radox will enjoy a little moment at the top of the table there. We'll see if they can keep that up throughout the season. And yeah, definitely not the start that Seppo was looking for in Division 3, BOKSA.
Yeah, well, I can see Freckles, as I mentioned, and Benica, of course, and Barry Fisher Beer to be on top of the table in the end. I think Hugo Ibarra, Skydiver Ferret will have a hard time. I don't know what the fuck are you talking that well, so I don't know where his strengths lie or his weaknesses. I think it's also interesting to see how Boca will move in the table. I've seen him quite a few times now, and I think he's also a good player who can definitely, or is definitely able to put up some good scores.
Very nice. Yeah, Calamity, not too many aces out of this seed for our Division 3 this time.
Yeah, interesting. I don't really have like a good picture in the back of my mind about what exactly the locations were, but we saw some rather low scores as well in here. And yeah, maybe there were just some locations that were a bit tougher to pinpoint than in some of the other seeds. But also what I forgot to mention earlier is we had 2 more newcomers who lost their first game, so that makes it 6 out of 6 losses for the top 3 divisions. Which is actually quite interesting because it's completely different to what we've seen previously in the past seasons, where usually we had like the newcomers coming in after the preseason and being like straight away at the top of the table, winning everything, and then they'd sort of, as the season went on, they drop back, and some of them at least drop back into the middle of the table or a bit further down. But this season, struggling a bit, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it'll go for them as well, WTF and Paulinho in this case. And also, as I mentioned in Division 2, where I said score differences, we've got some huge score differences here in this division so far, so that might play a role later on as well.
Yeah, we'll see if that's the case. In Guatemala, this is the matchups for Division 3. Our 2 Germans facing off against Barry Fisher Bear and Paulinho. For Seppo, BOKSA, it does not get any easier this week.
Oh no, at least not for Seppo and Closed. But I think Benica and Radox will be an exciting match because they both are now in the top 4, I think. Also, maybe Hugo and Skydiving Ferret will have to really show what they can in Guatemala with their loss in the first match in Japan. I think also Freckles and LCN15 can show what they are capable of doing. Yeah.
Yeah, another important matchup for Benica and LCN in their respective parts of probably their future table positions, Calamity.
Yeah, Freckles against LCN is first against second in the table right now. Obviously not too decisive yet, as well, we've only had 1 week. But it could be a very important match going forward as well. And especially for Freckles, as I've mentioned earlier, always a bit hit or miss with country maps. So if he can win that as well and basically get the 2 first countries out of the way with wins, then he's probably maybe even the favorite for promotion. LCN, the same way, if he can win, he'd be in 6 points against some good opponents to start with. So would be a good start for him. Of course, Benica and Radox, as we've said, going to be an interesting match as well. I think, judging by their skill, I'd guess for the person who loses this match, I think they might have a tough time if they want to get promoted. Not that they really fall down into any kind of relegation danger or anything, but I think this is the sort of match at their skill level where you really want to win this match against some people of sort of the same level as you, and if you can beat them, then you've got a good chance at getting promoted. Yeah, the others, as we talked about, WTF against Ferret, both people losing their first game, and both wanting a win here, because again, as we've said before, starting with 2 losses is never going to be fun. Yeah, Hugo as well. He needs to get a season going this time. He struggled a lot at the start of last season, and I fear he might start losing motivation rapidly if this season starts off in a similar vein and doesn't get any better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, good luck to all of our competitors in Guatemala. Finally, down into Division 4 and 5, there are 2 groups in these divisions. So we have Division 4A here, the first half of the players. And Calamity, very nice scores all the way around and very close wins for big wins for like Hexalt and Hirekme here.
Yeah, some pretty nice scores all around, except for one there that we'll just sort of ignore. Not the best start for Porkstakes. He was very close to the promotion fight last season. He missed out on the playoffs by just 1 point. I think it was actually already decided before the last week, but he was still close nevertheless. But with these sort of results, he's gonna have a very tough time in Division 4. Never mind thinking about promotion, but even just staying in it. Yeah, very good start for the French competitors. Hexalt with a win, Hedegme as well, Nakiro and Faraban. Well, he couldn't have won as well and make it 4 because he was playing against another Frenchman, but he made it close enough and got the bonus point there for the, I think, 3rd highest score in the division. And yeah, it might be a tough season for the Swiss competitors, Neusel and Pastetli, judging by what I've seen so far of them. I think they were both not too far up the table last season in Division 4, and it's only gotten stronger. I think especially this half of Division 4 is very, very strong and super exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one will develop. Yeah, with Lunacy as well. Great performance there. The highest score of Division 4A. So they've got 2 difficult opponents out of the way, but they're also still here with 0 points. So yeah, I think they're probably the favorites, as well as Porkstakes, to fight for that relegation spot. And I think that'd have to be some real surprise if to have at least, like, not at least one of them be somewhere in those relegation spots.
Yeah, also Lunacy, our first newcomer to actually pick up a win, and we actually have that match for you, so be looking forward to that on the channel here in the coming days. Yeah, BOKSA, any comments here on Division 4A results?
Yeah, again, 4 Frenchies, 4 Americans, so not that much of different in terms of nations that are represented in the division, but I think that's okay. I'm quite sure that Hidikmi has high expectations for himself and wants to catch up with his French France, put it that way. And I'm also pretty sure that Nakiro will dominate the division. Maybe also Lunacy Echo. I mean, I have never heard of him before, to be honest, but 24-8 is a pretty good score. It's getting interesting.
Very nice. Let's take a look at the table. Again, very early days. We can still see a few things kind of shaping up here. Hexal and Faraban both getting 4 aces in their game, basically canceling each other out here, Calamity, making Faraban get that bonus point for his score.
Yeah, getting lots of aces is nothing new for Faraban. We've seen that last season as well. Yeah, we've got pretty much this, like, if the season ends like this, it wouldn't be a massive surprise to me. Which is quite interesting to see that it already looks like it like a normal table would look like after just one day. Yeah, I think you can definitely expect some good performances from Faraban as well going forward, to maybe push himself up the table a bit. It'll be a very tough season here, and I'm sure that at least like 4 or 5 players in this division have the level where they could comfortably compete in Division 3 as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to see how this one ends up.
Indeed. Yeah. Any comments here on the table early on, BOKSA?
Well, maybe one thing. I'm very curious to see what place Solar Sensei will end up in. I've seen him in a lot of tournaments or single events in the Reddit subreddit. I think he's a pretty good no move player. I've seen him in those events organized by some players. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to his place.
See how he can do in this competition as a newcomer. Now, our matchups for Guatemala for 4A, things do not get any easier for some of our players. Solar Sensei has to take on Hexalt and another French derby with Nakiro and Farabond already. Calamity.
Yeah, and Nakir and Farabon is not only a French derby, but also a duel between two team members in the French community. So I'm sure they both have a little bit of extra motivation to want to win this one. But at the same time, it's probably a case of, well, if my opponent wins, it's not too bad because at least it's my teammate. Lunacy's got the back-to-back with the two Swiss players after each other. After beating Pastetli last week, he's got Neusel this week. You definitely want to beat him as well. I think H-Town against Hedigme is a very interesting match as well, as they're both players I see somewhere around like the middle of the table, maybe like around 4th and 5th. But if any of the favorites have a few off days, and maybe drop a few points here and there, then I can definitely see one of the two sneaking into a 3rd place finish. But for that, they'll need any points they can get their hands on. So a win here would be very, very beneficial. And yeah, the other Swiss, Pastetli, will have a pretty decisive match against Porkstakes as well. After Porkstakes' pretty rough loss in week 1. A loss here would be devastating for either of their seasons, really. And I think they'll both, whoever loses out of the two of them will have a very tough season ahead of them.
Indeed, yeah. BOKSA, any matches you're looking forward to in 4A?
Yeah, I mean, as Calamity already pointed out, the match between Porkstakes and Pashetli is crucial for both of them. I mean, they both might be in trouble at the end of the season, so they should be happy to have the chance to collect 3 points against a rival. I'm also looking forward to the Lunaki Echo match. He put up a pretty good score in the first match in Japan, and I wonder if he can do the same in Guatemala.
Be looking forward to those matchups as well. And let's take over to the Division 4B results in Japan and finally get to my name. And let's just not talk about that game as we look at the other scores. And we finally have a bunch of our new boys picking up wins here. BOKSA, Tyconicus, Soviet Spy, both picking up wins.
Yeah, I mean, Soviet Spy is around for a long time, I think. So I'm happy to see him winning a game. Also happy about the Diesel win. He's also pretty active in the subreddit. You can see him playing there many times. Pretty close match between Pond Noob and Theos. And also Steeler Snake down there, also picking up a win, which is, I don't think it's surprising against Edward Geosquad, but I think he's also a contender for being maybe on the upper half of the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Calamity.
Yeah, the results went more or less as I expected, with the exception of the wild card, in quotation marks, Tyconicus, who I didn't know prior to this, and I guess your performance. Well, I didn't necessarily expect you to win against Diesel, who I know is a very strong player, but I did expect a bit of a better score. But, well, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it. And yeah, other than
It's one of those days.
Yep. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, wins for Soviets and Tyconicus, as we've talked about, two newcomers putting up some good scores there. Steal the Snake as well. And it's actually the reunite. What is even the noun for that? Reuniting? I don't know. Of Fierce and Wakelock after they spent the first 2 seasons together in a division, and now it's season 4 and they're back together. Going better for one person rather than the other. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see as well where they both end up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's take a little look at this Division 4B table. Again, not a whole lot to see early on. No bonus points in this division, at least. Everybody either getting a win or no points. Ace is also a bit lower down the table, except for Diesel picking up 3 of those. Yeah, Box, any takes on how this table looks after 1 week?
I'm not quite sure if all of those matches went as I would have expected. For example, the match from Jack Lyons was a bit surprising, at least in my eyes. I can see him being far on the top of the table. I'm not saying that he will be first or second, but I really can see him being at least third or fourth at the end of the season. So I'm pretty interested in seeing how he will move up the table. Also, you, Zotomo, maybe if it's not Japan, maybe you can do well in Guatemala if you practice. I don't know.
Well, I'm definitely practicing. I can't really practice Japan because I've already played so much of it. I just have to play. But Guatemala definitely put in the practice after this week's performance. So.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, Calamity, anything from you here?
Not a lot really here. As BOKSA said, Jake Lyons, definitely expecting him to maybe not go for promotion, but at least make it out of the relegation zone. And yeah, so Tomo, you've got your work cut out for you. Looking at the other people in this division, I know you kind of were already thinking about maybe going towards promotion with Japan as your first map and stuff like that. But I think like avoiding relegation would be a good achievement for you this season, because I don't really see a lot of weak players in this division that you could comfortably beat. Maybe Edward and maybe if you meet him in a good game, Wakerlock. But other than that, it's definitely going to be hard to get any points here.
I think just like last season, I could pick 4 players who could beat me and are probably going to be the top 4, and that's not me included. So then again, I'm stuck in the middle of the pack, hoping to avoid relegation again, just by how strong the rest of the field is. So we'll see if I can do that for sure. Yeah, and let's take a look at those fixtures for the next week. A little bit of an easier matchup for me, perhaps. Pwn Noob, another Division 4 player from last season. But our 2 new boys face off against each other in Tyconicus and Soviet BOKSA.
Yeah, I mean, as well, second and third player right now on the table. So I think they both want to collect another 3 points. That also goes for wait, give me a sec, for Diesel. He might collect another 3 points, making it 6 against Rekolog, who has been struggling in the first matchup. Also interesting, Steal the Snake against Theos. They're also with the first win in Japan, having 3 points on their side. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, Calamity, any matches you're looking forward to here?
Yeah, apart from what BOKSA has already mentioned, Jake Lyons already a bit under pressure after a struggle in week 1 and kind of needs a good result against Edward there, who is probably the favorite for relegation, judging by last season's results, where he mostly benefited from the fact that 3 players in Division 4A already got red carded, so he was kind of out of danger at that point. And pretty much the exact same thing goes for Wakerlock, who pretty much finished last then in Division 4A, which still was 7th, so you never know if those red cards hadn't happened, maybe he would have been fine as well. But both of those are in for a rough season, both of those fighting against some pretty good players this week, Wakerlock especially against Diesel. They'll need any points they can get as well, so yeah, pretty much any points they get would be a surprise this week, but a welcome one.
Yeah, very nice. Well, let's take a look at the results from Division 5A here. And yeah, some pretty poor performances, but again, some very good performances from a few of our new boys, Calamity.
Yeah, Division 5 is a bit interesting. We've already talked about how kind of the level has gotten higher and higher with every season, but I think we might have reached a peak right now in Season 4, where from this point onwards, like the level will mostly be pretty stable, maybe go a bit up, go a bit down occasionally, because we're pretty much you've already got most of the top players, and anyone who would come in might be on like a similar level to some of the top players, but not really above that. I think we see that especially in Division 5 now, where we get some players who, I don't want to say they're bad players, not at all, but might not be quite up to the task of fighting some of the stronger players in their own division. So I feel like maybe Division 5 is even the most unbalanced still. Or we've got some great results, for example, from Herr Yemini or Sepp Kiestir, who've got some great performances above 24k, Ollie 762 as well. And then on the same hand, we've got Mr. Fish with 11,000, GRH 77, who's pretty much been fighting against relegation non-stop since he came into Reddit League in Season 2, I think, with just 7,000 points here. And Kiribati as well, who kind of got lucky here in the lowest scoring match of the week to pick up some important free points for him, but also only just 12,000 points for him. And yeah, Marcus Fenn as well, only 15,000 points for him. And the only thing I was a bit surprised about maybe was Geoguessr, who I expected a bit more from. Always difficult, of course, against someone who got 24,000 points to win against them. But yeah, he's pretty much the only one out of the players that we retain from last season, the other two being Marcus Fenn and GRH, who I think has a chance at least to fight for promotion. But yeah, for that to happen, I need to see a bit more from him in the coming weeks.
Oh yeah, two very strong performances from the Germans here, BOKSA.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, I didn't know that Kiribati is from Sweden, but regardless, it looks like a mixed bag. Looking at the nations, I don't know many players that well, but based on the first match in Japan, Emine, Seppkirst, and Oli are looking promising. And of course, I'm cheering for my German fellows, but I'm also interested in seeing how Mr. Fish and Sky Blues, Blue FZ, will do. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, let's take a brief look at their table after 1 week. 2 bonus points picked up here by Geoguessr and Sky Blues. So not too bad for them, despite their losses to start out with. They at least get a point for that. Yeah, Calamity, Herr Hemini and Niles at the top of the table. Is that something you're going to see towards the end as well, or a bit of a moment of glory, so to speak?
Yeah, I definitely think Yemine has a pretty good chance of staying up top there. But we've only seen 1 week from all of these guys so far. There's a couple players I've seen around a bit. Sepp Kiest, especially, I think he's played some of the tournaments on Reddit that I've taken part in as well. Always kind of been sort of like round lower mid-table there. But I think he's got a decent shot as well there, especially if he puts in the practice. But we also see here what we've kind of been missing that I mentioned beforehand, and in the upper divisions where we've got pretty much just newcomers dominating the table after week 1. The highest positioned player who is retained from last season is Geoguessr in 7th, who picked up a bonus point for having the 5th highest result of week 1. But yeah, Niels, I'm not quite sure yet. The 18,000 points in Japan, it's not a result where you go, oh, he's definitely a favorite now. It's kind of the result way of thinking, yeah, he's probably not going to be in too much trouble in regards to relegation, maybe, but kind of more so the player where you're looking at maybe 4th, 5th place, maybe if he gets a bit unlucky, 6th. Yeah, gonna be an interesting season in this one as well. But as I said before, I'm a kind of Division 5 more so along the lines of a division where we're going to see a pretty clear cut between like the top players and the bottom players. And it's just, for me, it's a matter of time, how long it takes until we see that sort of rift form in the middle there.
Yeah, BOKSA, any thoughts on Division 5A?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that Mr. or Herr Jemai will end up playing for promotion. It will be probably difficult for Marcus and GRH, but to be honest, I really know the players and their skills too little to make a reasonably statement. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how the table moves.
Very nice. Well, their matchups in Guatemala looks like this, and we have another very rough match for GRH and Marcus Fenn Calamity.
Yeah, both of them not too easy matchups. GRH especially, I'm fully expecting Geoguessr to pull out a win here. GRH has always struggled a bit in countries where you need to put in practice, as we've seen in previous seasons. And, well, Guatemala is one such country, so I would be very, very surprised if he could get any points here. For Niels and Marcus Fenn, I think it's a bit closer, especially because we've only seen this 1 week from Niels, and I've never heard of him before. So we don't know yet at all whether Japan was a good map for him. Maybe it was a terrible map for him, and he still just won his game. So I think we're going to have to wait a bit more until we can really make a call on him. But definitely the most exciting match here is the German derby between Herjemine and Sepp Kierst, both with good performances in Japan. And I think whoever can win this match is already kind of like a favorite for promotion. Maybe not direct promotion, still got to have an eye out for Ollie in that regard, who's also got another relatively easy match against Mr. Fish, who didn't do too well in Japan. But at least top 3, I think, is almost guaranteed for the winner of this game.
Very nice. Yeah, your thoughts on the German derby, BOKSA?
I think I will go for Herjemine simply because he's been putting up a decent score in the first match. But I can also see Sepp Kierst winning, taking the 3 points. But that goes for all of the other matches. Maybe expect for Geoguessr and GRH. I think they have to play with their cards open.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look at our final division here, Division 5B, and their results in Japan. And week 1 brought us our first yellow card for that one-wheel girl, unfortunately playing after the deadline here. Yeah, other than that, pretty good home performance by Vitanova, BOKSA.
Yeah, pretty good. I'm not sure if I played their seed of the seed of Division 5, so I don't know how their seed was, which locations were picked there. But pretty decent, pretty good score from Vitanova. Also, pretty high score from Danny Blons. I mean, if you look at the scores, there are only 3 scores above the 20k mark. So I think you can highlight Vitanova and Danny Blons here. Alexander on the edge to 21k. But I'm honest. I like Division 5 because many nations that are represented there. Also with Vincenzo from Italy and Laban from Norway. Laban also picking up his first 3 points with only 17k points. But I can see him being a contender for maybe promotion. He's been playing in a lot of subreddit events. Some no move, some move. I think he's a decent player.
Yeah, Calamity, I think we can definitely say that Japan was not the strongest map for a lot of these players in Division 5B.
Yeah, you also got to pay and keep in mind that it was the same seed as the Division 5A players got, and I think in that division 3 of them got above 24k. So it wasn't the most difficult seed. I think if we're just looking at the result page of that seed, Danny Blons, who got 24k, was I think in 19th on that seed. So I think it was just overall maybe not the best performances this week from most people, except for obviously Vitanova and Danny Blons here. Vitanova, for him, it's difficult to judge him just based off that, because as with a lot of other newcomers in Division 5, never heard of him before, and week 1 was his home map, so it's difficult to say. He might be absolutely terrible in everything else apart from Japan, or it might be a case like with me, for example, where playing Austria doesn't even give me that much of an advantage over any other random country. So that'll be.
Actually, I usually beat you in Austria.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah. So it's hard to say for him, but yeah. Regarding the yellow card for that one weird girl, Schmingo actually didn't tell me exactly who had extensions before going on holiday, so I kind of made like an announcement saying like, if anyone's got an an extension, please tell me. I did that on Discord, and then I contacted her on Reddit personally, and I mentioned her in the Reddit League post for the next week, and she has not contacted me at all. So theoretically, if she did manage Schmingo, it's still possible for that yellow card to be overturned, but if not, then that's fine. Yeah. And the thing is, she would have lost her game anyway. It's just a matter of if she has that yellow card or not. It wouldn't change much in the table. But yeah, as we said, great first week for Vitanova, great first week for Danny Blondes. Xander as well, who's one of my favorites for promotion, just scraping by that win against Clemens. They're not too dominant, but you only got to beat what's put in front of you, and he managed to do that. Same goes for Laban Greb, who I think this is an important win as well, because him as well as Vincenzo, that's kind of like the players I expect to be somewhere around the mid-table here again. Maybe around like 5th, 6th position, fighting against that relegation, more so than fighting for promotion. And any points against direct competitors is always great.
Well, let's take a look at the table then as it's shaping up. Again, 2 bonus points awarded in this one for our players here. And those kind of all over the place scores result in kind of an all over the place kind of table. Danny Blondes and Laban Greb, though, doing quite well, starting out off the top of the table with one of the new boys and Clemens. Yeah, One World Girl with her yellow card, not probably a start she would have wanted, or Vincenzo at the bottom there, BOKSA.
Yeah, I think Vincenzo will have a rough season overall. I can see him being down there as well at the end of the season. The same goes for that one weird girl. Maybe Bombadil, not quite sure. I'm looking forward to seeing Vitanova. I don't know him that well, but I mean, it's interesting because he's from Japan. We don't have that many Japanese players in the Reddit League or Geoguessr at all, I think. And I can also see Danny Blondes being far up there at the end, maybe Clemens. But as I already mentioned, I think 11 is a pretty good player. I might see him being up there as well. Not only like place 5th or 6th, but it's interesting.
I didn't actually really write much down for this. It's not anything really that decisive yet. So got a couple of bonus points around here. Yeah, we'll see in the coming weeks, especially about how Vitanova will how his season will go now that Japan is done with. Bombadil as well is someone I can't really estimate how well he'll do at all yet either. With his free win in week 1, and the score he got wasn't bad, wasn't great. So he might also be somewhere around that 6th, 7th position, I think. And yeah, definitely Danny Blondes, maybe Xander, gonna be the favorites for promotion out of this one.
Okay, well, let's take a look at their matchups for next week in Guatemala. And yeah, Vincenzo and that One World Girl facing off against each other, 2 returning players in this one, BOKSA.
Yeah, well, if I had to choose, I think that it's going to be a good week for Bombadil, Vincenzo, Leben, Xander, and Danny Blondes. So that would be my picks, to be honest. But they are, I mean, I don't know the players too much. I don't know how they played last season, to be honest. I can only talk about the players I see in the subreddit more often. And I mean, we had Japan in the first match. Now Guatemala, so 2 countries you don't play. I think you don't play just for fun in your free time. So yeah, so I think we will see later on. I think it's a pretty open and interesting division where everything can happen.
Very nice. Yeah, Clement, anything from you on these matchups?
Yeah, Danny Blondes against Vitanova is definitely the most interesting game for me in week 2. I'm expecting Danny Blondes to win it, but as I said, we don't know much about Vitanova yet. So maybe he can put in a surprise there. I think Clement Serchik against Laban Greb will also be quite an interesting match. Laban Greb did pick up 3 points in week 1, and Clemens only got 1, I think, for a bonus point. But Clemens did actually have the higher score than Laban Greb, with the thing about 19,000 to 17,000. So that might be another situation kind of similar to what I said about H-Town and Edigme in Division 4, where both players could maybe finish in third place if luck goes their way. For that, they'll have to pick up points against direct rivals like that.
Very nice. We've got one final thing to take care of before we head on out, and that is our map. And as you've already been talking about throughout the show, we've got Guatemala. It is a map by Mapper. Average score of only 9,812, over 1,000 locations. And actually, that's actually an accurate number because Mapper does tell us it's about how many locations there are. It's been played just over 2,500 times. Yeah, very small, pretty distinct geographic regions, though, Calamity, for the country.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you can differentiate, for example, between like the northeast and like the mountainous area around Guatemala City, but it's most of the time it's like, yeah, we're maybe in this half of the country or maybe in this quarter, and less so about, okay, we're probably on this road in this region. Rather than like we, for example, like we had in Bolivia, where it was a bit easier to differentiate between regions. Guatemala generally just is either like flat or mountainous, and that's pretty much all the distinction you get. It's also a bit different on the coast, because of the coverage as well. It's pretty much got like 7 or 8 straight roads that go from the middle of the country to the coast that are the only roads that have coverage around there. Apart from that, I actually thought I'd hate practicing Guatemala, but it's ever since I started, it's actually been quite nice. Not bad. It still has its annoyances, as the average score indicates. I just looked it up, by the way. That average score is lower than Mongolia. And I think Mongolia's score is probably elevated a bit by the French community. But regardless of that, it's like 2,000 points lower. That might actually, I don't know for sure, but that might be the lowest average score that any country in the world has for its distinctive map.
Low.
I mean, I gotta look up Bangladesh quickly, but it could generally be the lowest. Yeah, Bangladesh even still has 12,000. So we're definitely gonna have a tough time for some players here. Yeah, for some of the annoyances, it does have misleading signs pointing you towards towns that aren't even on the map. Does that quite often. It also has the typical sort of small country mentality where there are signs everywhere that are like Guatemala City, this direction. No matter if you're like 5 kilometers away or 200 kilometers away, the capital is always somewhere. Yeah, it's also littered with straight roads that can make pinpointing a bit of a pain. But you do actually find way more information about where you are than I imagined, especially on advertisement boards who often have like a province name on them. And you can also find construction project signs around quite a lot that give you all of the information you need, mostly like a province. Most of them even give you the city you're currently in, or the town in most cases. Yeah, it's definitely not your usual country, but with the schedule that we have, we may well have to wait all the way until Romania for a usual country. So I wouldn't count too much on those this season.
Very nice. Yeah, BOKSA, your take on any of in this map here?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that Guatemala tends to be one of those countries you rarely see in tournaments and such, I like the country, to be honest. I mean, in Geoguessr, Guatemala is one of the countries where I think it really pays off to take a look at the map maker, or Street View coverage in general beforehand, before playing. For example, I mean, there are many of the national roads are covered, but there's, for example, a 9N, like I think in the middle of the country or north, that is not covered at all, so you don't have to look there. Although, like I said, in Guatemala, mainly the national roads and cities are covered. And I'm personally someone who tries to memorize a lot of city and districts and departments, that pays off in Guatemala. it helps particularly in Guatemala, especially because you are often placed on the larger roads. For example, in the northern part of the country, you only have the what is it, PT11, I think, and on the right the CA13 leading up to cities like Petén, the department Petén. So if you know you are somewhere north in the country, you only have to look up those two streets, and maybe Flores, which is covered quite good in the northern part. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said, Calamity, in that there are practically no road signs, so don't bother with those, but those billboards can be lifesavers. Another interesting thing that I've been picking up in my practice has been sometimes if you're on a pretty major road, you get buses that have their start and end city on the front of the bus. And so you don't know, obviously, what town you're in, but you know, okay, maybe I'm somewhere in between these two. And then you can put that together with a few other clues to try to help you find the right road, or at least, get within the right couple 100 kilometers of the area. So that actually helped me a few times in my practice for that. But yeah, definitely knowing the province/state names, the major cities in each one of those, because those do appear on lots of advertisements. So get those down, and that'll help you a lot for that. But I think our players can beat that average score. I think we should do that. We should do that math. What is the average score of all players next week in Guatemala, and is that above 10,000? I think we can beat that. So.
I'd be worried if it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. And I think actually after all the practice games we play, that probably will get bumped up a little bit as well, even before we get into the actual season. But for that one. So yeah, well, thank you all for watching our first show. Thank you all for hanging out with us and talking about all these matchups and what we have to come next week in Guatemala. Thank you, Calamity and BOKSA, for joining me as always, and I will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.